Daniel and Clara Hayes seemed like the perfect couple, successful, admired, and untouchable in their small town of Maplewood. Neighbors envied their seemingly flawless life, from Clara's thriving wellness brand to Daniel's respected career as a financial advisor. Their home was immaculate, their social media filled with glowing selfies, romantic getaways, and picture-perfect celebrations. But behind the curated smiles and elegant appearances, a dangerous tension had been simmering, a tension that would erupt into a shocking, blood-chilling tragedy no one saw coming. Maplewood was the kind of town where people left their doors unlocked and waved to passing cars. At the far end of Willow Creek Lane stood the Hayes residence, a spotless two-story home with wide glass windows and a perfectly trimmed lawn. Daniel and Clara Hayes were the pride of the neighborhood. Their lives seemed carefully designed for admiration. Daniel worked as a financial advisor with a growing list of wealthy clients. Clara managed a flourishing online wellness brand that promoted healthy living and mindfulness. Together, they represented success, stability, and modern romance. Their weekends were filled with dinner parties, charity events, and short luxury trips that filled their social media pages with glowing photos. Every image showed coordinated outfits, warm smiles, and affectionate gestures. Followers often commented that they were relationship goals. Neighbors described them as polite, calm, and generous. They donated to local causes and never missed community gatherings. From the outside, nothing about their life suggested tension or trouble. Yet perfection often hides pressure. Daniel had become quieter over the past year. He stopped attending his weekly golf games and began spending long hours in his home office. Clara, on the other hand, appeared more driven than ever, posting motivational content daily while privately handling most of their financial decisions. Subtle changes were easy to miss. The lights in the office stayed on long after midnight. Deliveries arrived more frequently, some labeled as lab supplies for Clara's product research. To the town, they were the perfect couple. But beneath the carefully arranged smiles and polished routines, something fragile was forming. The illusion of harmony was strong, yet small cracks were beginning to spread through the foundation of their carefully built life. Daniel Hayes was found early on a gray Monday morning. The house was unusually quiet. Clara told authorities she had assumed he was sleeping in his office after working late. When she finally opened the door, she discovered him sitting upright at his desk, his hands resting near his keyboard. His eyes were slightly open, his expression frozen in a way that felt unnatural. There were no overturned chairs, no broken objects, no signs of panic. The room looked undisturbed, almost staged. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was already clear that Daniel had been dead for hours. At first glance, there were no visible injuries. His body showed no bruises or wounds. Detectives walked through the house carefully, checking windows and doors. Everything was locked from the inside. The security system showed no alerts. It appeared impossible for anyone to have entered or left without being noticed. The autopsy results stunned everyone involved in the investigation. Daniel had not died of a heart attack, as initially suspected. Traces of a rare airborne toxin were found in his lungs. The chemical was colorless and nearly odorless, capable of shutting down the nervous system slowly and quietly. It was not something easily purchased or accidentally encountered. The level found in his body suggested controlled exposure. Investigators searched the office for devices, sprays, or containers, but found nothing obvious. Air vents were inspected, filters were removed, and samples were taken from every surface. The lack of a traditional crime scene made the case deeply unsettling. There was no weapon in sight, no fingerprints out of place, and no clear explanation for how the toxin had been released. What seemed like a peaceful home had become the center of a highly unusual and carefully executed death, one that left more questions than answers. In the days following Daniel's death, Clara Hayes became the image of quiet strength. She handled phone calls, met with investigators, and arranged the funeral with careful attention to detail. Photos of her dressed in simple black clothing appeared online beside long messages about love, loss, and gratitude. The posts were shared thousands of times. Support poured in from followers who admired her composure during such a tragic time. The memorial service was elegant and controlled, much like the life they had presented to the world. Soft music played as guests filled the church. A large framed portrait of Daniel stood near the entrance, showing him smiling in a navy suit. Clara greeted visitors calmly, accepting condolences with steady hands. Observers described her as graceful and brave. She spoke about cherishing memories and moving forward with strength. But investigators watching closely began to sense something unusual. Clara rarely asked for updates about the toxicology findings. She did not show visible anger or confusion about the strange cause of death. Instead, she appeared focused on maintaining order. When detectives mentioned the possibility of foul play, her reaction seemed measured rather than shocked. Financial records uncovered during routine background checks added another layer of concern. Clara had taken out a large life insurance policy on Daniel just 6 months earlier. The payout would be more than enough to secure her business and lifestyle for years. She was listed as the sole beneficiary. Still, suspicion was not proof. Grief affects people differently, and composure does not equal guilt. Detectives needed more than intuition. They began examining Clara's digital footprint, hoping to find a connection between the rare toxin and the woman who appeared to be mourning too perfectly. What they uncovered would begin to unravel the flawless image she had worked so hard to build. Forensic analysts began a detailed review of Clara's electronic devices. Her laptop, tablet, and phone were carefully examined by digital experts who specialized in recovering deleted information. At first, everything looked clean. Browsing histories had been erased, cloud storage was organized, and emails appeared routine. But deeper recovery tools revealed hidden fragments of data buried beneath layers of deletion. Investigators discovered search queries about rare chemical agents capable of causing silent respiratory failure. There were scientific journal articles saved as PDFs, along with notes highlighting specific compounds that could disperse through air systems. The searches dated back nearly 8 months, long before Daniel's death. Some entries included diagrams of ventilation systems and discussions about airflow control. Further investigation uncovered purchases made through a small online supplier using a separate email account registered under a shortened version of Clara's name. The orders included laboratory-grade gloves, filtration masks, glass vials, and small chemical containers. The shipping address led detectives to a rented storage unit located 20 minutes from Maplewood. When officers searched the unit, they found shelves neatly arranged with equipment resembling a compact research station. There were empty chemical containers, measuring tools, and printed research papers. Everything was organized carefully, almost clinically. However, no large quantity of toxin was recovered, suggesting it had already been used or disposed of. The discovery shifted the investigation dramatically. What once seemed like an impossible crime now appeared carefully studied. The method of murder was unconventional, designed to avoid visible violence and immediate suspicion. Clara's polished public image now stood in sharp contrast to the secret laboratory hidden across town. As investigators continued digging into the couple's background, a different story began to unfold beneath the polished surface of Clara's wellness empire. Financial analysts assigned to the case examined bank statements, investment accounts, and business records. What they found painted a picture of quiet collapse. Clara's brand, once praised for rapid growth, had been losing money for over a year. Advertising costs had doubled while product sales steadily declined. Several large investors had withdrawn their support after questioning the company's financial transparency. Behind the filtered photos and motivational posts, Clara was facing mounting pressure. Credit cards were near their limits. Private loans had been taken out under the company's name. A series of risky investments had failed, draining what remained of her emergency funds. The luxury trips and expensive dinner parties had not slowed down, creating the illusion that everything was thriving. Daniel had recently uncovered unexplained transfers from their joint account into the business. Records showed he had started moving personal savings into a separate account weeks before his death. He had also scheduled a meeting with a legal advisor specializing in asset protection. Investigators believed he was preparing to limit Clara's access to shared finances. The life insurance policy now looked less like precaution and more like strategy. The payout would have cleared debts instantly and preserved Clara's public image. A natural-looking death would prevent investors from investigating too closely and protect her reputation from scandal. The motive appeared strong and logical. Financial desperation combined with fear of exposure created a powerful incentive. Yet something still did not fully align. The toxin used was rare and dangerous, requiring careful handling. While Clara had researched it, detectives questioned whether she had truly acted alone. The case was building toward a clear conclusion. Just as investigators felt confident they were closing in on Clara, the case shifted in an unexpected direction. A routine review of neighborhood security cameras revealed footage of Daniel visiting a hardware and industrial supply store 3 weeks before his death. Receipts confirmed he had purchased high-efficiency air filters, specialized tubing, and a programmable ventilation controller. The items were expensive and far more advanced than what a simple home office would require. Detectives returned to the Hayes residence and conducted a second, more detailed inspection of Daniel's office. Inside the ventilation duct above his desk, technicians discovered subtle modifications. A small chamber had been fitted between the air intake and the output vent. The installation was precise, almost professional. Traces of the same rare toxin were found inside that chamber. The discovery complicated everything. If Clara had built a system to release poison, why was it installed inside Daniel's own workspace with components he had personally purchased? Forensic engineers determined that the device had a timer function. However, it showed signs of malfunction. A wiring error suggested the release may not have occurred as originally planned. Further examination of Daniel's personal email account uncovered research into chemical exposure limits and insurance clauses related to accidental death. He had also taken out a separate life insurance policy months earlier, naming himself as the primary policyholder while increasing coverage on Clara. Investigators began to consider a chilling possibility. Daniel had been constructing the device himself. Whether it was intended for Clara or for another purpose remained unclear. The timing of the malfunction indicated he may have activated it while testing airflow settings, unknowingly exposing himself. The narrative of a grieving wife orchestrating a flawless murder was no longer straightforward. As investigators pieced together the final layers of evidence, the image of Daniel as an innocent victim began to fade. Financial documents showed he had quietly increased a life insurance policy that listed Clara as the insured party. The change had been made only 4 months before his death. He had also consulted an attorney about restructuring marital assets in the event of sudden loss. These actions suggested preparation, not protection. Digital forensics revealed that Daniel had conducted his own research into toxic substances, separate from Clara's searches. Unlike Clara's focus on business-related stress, Daniel's notes were more technical. He had saved diagrams explaining controlled air dispersion and chemical concentration levels. He had even created a spreadsheet calculating exposure times based on room size and airflow speed. Investigators concluded that both husband and wife had been operating in secrecy, each aware of financial collapse but unaware of the other's intentions. Clara's failing business created motive. Daniel's fear of losing wealth and reputation created his own. Instead of confronting their problems openly, they appeared to have planned silent solutions. Forensic reconstruction suggested that Daniel had assembled the ventilation device alone in his office. The toxin traces found in the storage unit matched those in the vent, linking Clara's research to the same chemical source. However, there was no physical evidence placing her at the vent system during installation or activation. The timer malfunction indicated premature release, likely during testing. The most disturbing conclusion emerged slowly. Both individuals may have been preparing to eliminate the other using similar methods. Their marriage was no longer a partnership, but a hidden competition driven by fear and desperation. The perfect couple was an illusion built on mutual deception. In the end, Daniel became the victim of the very mechanism he had constructed. In the months that followed, the case reached a conclusion that left Maplewood unsettled. Prosecutors reviewed every report, every financial record, and every forensic detail. While Clara's research and hidden storage unit proved she had explored illegal chemical possession, there was no direct evidence showing she had installed or activated the device in Daniel's office. The malfunction inside the ventilation system, combined with Daniel's purchases and technical notes, supported the theory that he had built and triggered it himself. The official ruling classified Daniel's death as a fatal accident caused by exposure to a device he constructed. Clara was later charged with unlawful possession of hazardous substances and financial fraud tied to her failing business. The charges were serious, but far from a murder accusation that once seemed certain. The courtroom proceedings focused on deception and illegal materials rather than intentional homicide. The town struggled to process the truth. Neighbors replayed memories of dinner parties and holiday gatherings, searching for signs they had missed. Friends who once envied the couple's success began to question how deeply social media had shaped their perceptions. The flawless photos now felt like carefully edited scenes from a stage production. Investigators closed the file, knowing the full emotional truth might never be clear. Whether Clara would have acted first or whether Daniel's plan would have succeeded remained unanswered. What was certain was that both had chosen secrecy over honesty and strategy over trust. The Hayes home was eventually sold. The white fence was repainted, and new owners moved in, unaware of the tension that once filled its walls. The illusion of the perfect couple had shattered completely, revealing not passion or devotion, but ambition, fear, and quiet calculation hiding behind polished smiles.